Laura, would you like to talk about the difference in facilitating a restorative circle and the process involved versus what you facilitated recently in Town Hall?
Yeah, so of course this is only just my opinion and perspective, and I think we're a lot, maybe 10 years away from having a very effective restorative system in Oroville. So we recently had a circle. We had a circle and like a 3-hour circle, and then a week after another 2 hours on the same subject. We haven't yet had a post-circle. On the topic of a youth project being assigned a plot of land and 2 neighboring families being upset by how close that project was to come up, and that according to them they weren't really consulted about this project coming up so close. And so yeah, many parties are involved, the people in town planning, and there's money that was given from the government of India, and they've been trying to resolve this conflict since like a year and a half, and a couple of months ago an RC was called, and 85 people were named, and I think there was quite some frustration, so several didn't come. Our system is still very new and many people don't really see the value of sitting down and dialoguing, and they've got busy lives and busy office hours and things like this. But there was quite some frustration, I think, with some people, because they thought, okay, let's come up with a solution already, especially since it's been going on since a year and a half. And I think actually where we were with the circle, I don't think we could have really come much further. And as I hear myself saying that, maybe that's not true. Maybe we could have come further had we kept on dialoguing. But it was like without the working groups being there, without the people in town planning being there, for example, I don't see how we could have come to a final solution or final clarity. And so there was an action plan, there was a meeting where we were supposed to somehow design kind of a collaborative neighborhood plan. That meeting didn't go very, very far. And then the Oroville Council, which is the group that kind of deals with internal affairs and things, they took it on. And they hosted 2 meetings, and they asked me to facilitate. And there was this sense of a solution needs to be found now, and we can't keep on dragging this, and your RC did some good things, but a solution needs to be found. And I had some internal hesitation as to whether I wanted to facilitate these meetings or not, and I said I would. The first one I actually found quite touching, people from the council and the working committee and the town planning groups, they were there. And different stakeholders, so the youth project and another archaeological project in the site, and these 2 neighboring families. And I found that really a lot of very valid perspectives were shared and heard. And the plan there was that the council and working committee and town planning group, that they would meet and come up with a final decision. And I had expressed that I had some concerns about that, like what's final, and I think that's one of our challenges in Oroville. Without a justice system, there isn't really anything that can be enforced as final. If someone rejects it, they will do whatever they do to reject it, and then there's no way to get the police after them or whatever. And I think that's part of our beauty, but it comes back to, so we have to actually sit down and really understand each other. We have to dialogue so that there is willingness when we come up with the final decision. And we met 2 days ago, and these 3 groups, delivered their final decision, and there was a lot of reaction to it in the room. And I was, at the end of the meeting, I was just kind of laughing, because I had been told, that it needs to be facilitated in such a way so that it's a final decision. And at the end of the meeting, it wasn't. It's like these 3 groups are now back at the drawing board. And I just thought they wanted this process, these two meetings to be effective, an effective use of time, because whatever, it's been going on for too long, and people are tired and they want to move forward. And it's like, was it really an effective use of our time? Did we actually move forward? And I actually think that where connection and trust was at the end of the meeting on Tuesday was worse than where it was at the end of the RC, whatever it was, maybe a month ago. I don't remember exactly the date right now. So I don't know. I'm just intrigued by what we consider to be, an effective use of time and moving forwards, and what's actually sustainable in terms of decisions. Them being able to be implemented and respected, and where are we in terms of our sense of connection and trust and feeling heard, and which then give rise to goodwill. There's not much goodwill right now. So I actually think that the way for us to go is through processes like RC, where we can sit together from all different groups in the community and really dialogue, and where we get to hear neighbors, and where we also get to hear the very valid concerns of people who are sitting in town hall and who see, who are looking at the larger perspective, and how do we develop Oroville. And I just see that it's the way to go. I imagine we have many years ahead of us before we get there. So what I really wonder, like the work for us coming up, is to see how we can engage with the community, and especially at this point with working groups, and how to create a process or clarify RC, how to come together somewhere in the middle to see that we do need to dialogue. And yes, they need to trust that it's an effective use of our time, and that actually ultimately it's helping their work. And that they don't have to lose time, with conflict resolution or... So I know it's going to take time. It can't just be suddenly. So I both have a sense of anticipation and excitement, but also like, when is it going to descend, and when is that clarity going to emerge, and that trust and the willingness to show up in this way. Yeah, so I'm quite excited for what we're experimenting with.
I have a question. It seems to me that part of what you're trying to say is that the process of restorative circles looks slow, but it has immense results, because the heart's open when people are heard. And so you can get to a long-term solution quicker than trying to force some solution quickly.
Yeah, this is kind of the paradox, obviously from my perspective, where I'm valuing dialogue and where I'm valuing reflective listening, and where I've seen for years, whether it's through RC practice or through small circles that we've had, or through nonviolent communication, the power of being able to really hear the other and connecting, and how things shift from there, and that when I'm heard, I chill out, and trust gets restored, and then I start to have more openness and goodwill that I maybe didn't have half an hour ago. And actually at the end of the circle, I experienced that the parties who were the most troubled, or who were expressing themselves with the most pain, were actually starting to relax and trust and see a way forward. Whereas now, after this so-called final decision was given, there was maybe the most pain and the loudest expression ever, maybe even more, I think, than in the RC. And that wasn't really received. Also, there were voices, next to me telling me that I should facilitate better, and I should tell this person to shut up, and that, she's already had enough minutes, and So yeah, I wish that we could see that investing some heart space is actually a better use of our time in terms of longevity of trust and being able to move forward than trying to enforce what looks like a rational outcome. And that ultimately the outcome may actually be the same. But one looks like it's co-created, and so there's willingness to go with it, and the other looks like it's power over, and there's a rejection because people want to know that their voices matter.